In the quiet town of Vernon, British Columbia, Canada, lived 19-year-old Ashley Wadsworth. She was the kind of girl people described as full of light, adventurous, optimistic, and deeply rooted in her faith. Ashley grew up in a close-knit Mormon family. She loved travel, music, and had that spark of curiosity about the world beyond her hometown. Like many young people her age, Ashley dreamed of something bigger. She wanted to see new places, meet new people, and build experiences that would shape her future. And in 2021, she thought she had found the doorway to that dream. Ashley met Jack Sepple, a 23-year-old from Chelmsford, Essex, on a dating app. Whether it was Bumble or Tinder, the connection seemed instant. Messages became video calls became daily conversations, and soon, Ashley was convinced this wasn't just another online fling. This was love. For months, she spoke excitedly with friends and family about her plans. She told them she was finally ready to take the leap, to move across the world, start a new chapter, and live in England with Jack. Her family, protective but supportive, trusted Ashley's judgment. To them, Jack was just a smiling face on a screen, a man who seemed kind enough to make their daughter happy. In November 2021, Ashley boarded a plane to the UK. For the first time, she left behind her hometown, her friends, her family, everything familiar, chasing the promise of romance and adventure. At first, everything seemed perfect. Her social media posts showed the typical honeymoon glow, sightseeing in London, sharing selfies with Jack, smiling in cozy pubs and historic streets. To her friends back home, Ashley looked like she was living her dream. But dreams, as we'll soon see, can hide cracks that no one notices until it's far too late. When Ashley landed in the UK in November 2021, she was filled with excitement. Imagine being just 19 years old, stepping off a plane thousands of miles from home, and finally meeting the person you'd only known through a screen. For Ashley, this was the adventure of a lifetime. She moved into Jack Sepple's modest house in Chelmsford, Essex. At first glance, it wasn't glamorous, but that didn't matter. Ashley was young, in love, and eager to make it work. She messaged friends back home, sharing how she was settling into British life, exploring London, trying new foods, even laughing about how different everything felt compared to her quiet Canadian town. But beneath the Instagram-worthy smiles, there were shadows beginning to form. Jack Sepple wasn't the charming boyfriend he appeared to be online. He was unemployed, often aimless, and reportedly battling depression and drug use. While Ashley was posting pictures of Big Ben and happy moments, those close to her began noticing subtle changes. Her friends later said she became quieter in her messages, less bubbly, almost guarded. There were red flags, moments of controlling behavior, jealousy, and a growing sense that Jack didn't want Ashley connecting too much with people outside of their home. Still, Ashley tried to push those worries aside. After all, she had crossed an ocean for this relationship. She wanted it to work. Her social media continued to paint the picture of a fairy tale romance. Smiling selfies, couple shots, little snapshots of a love story. To her family and friends back in Canada, Ashley looked happy, even radiant. They couldn't have known the truth, because behind those photos was a different reality. Ashley's world was slowly shrinking. Jack's behavior was becoming more controlling, and the cracks in their relationship were widening. It's the contrast that makes this story so heartbreaking. To the outside world, Ashley's new life looked like a dream, but inside that Chelmsford house, her adventure was turning into a cage, and the danger was only just beginning. At first, Ashley tried to ignore the uneasy feelings creeping in. After all, moving across the world is a huge adjustment. Maybe, she thought, she just needed time to settle. But soon, the problems weren't just about culture shock or homesickness. They were about Jack. Behind closed doors, his true nature began to show. Friends later recalled that Ashley's messages hinted at tension. She told them she wanted to come back home, that things weren't what she expected. She had even started making plans, searching flights, talking to her family about returning to Canada. Jack, on the other hand, became increasingly controlling. He didn't want her going out alone, grew jealous when she messaged friends, and often dictated who she could speak to. What looked like love from the outside began to feel like possession on the inside. Neighbors in Chelmsford remembered hearing arguments. Some said they noticed Ashley looking distressed when she stepped outside. There were whispers of concern, but like many abusive relationships, the signs were subtle, only visible in fragments, until it was too late. Jack himself had a troubling background. Reports later revealed he struggled with mental health issues, heavy cannabis use, and violent tendencies in past relationships. But Ashley, so young and far from home, had no way of truly knowing what she had stepped into. By January 2022, Ashley confided in a close friend that she was preparing to leave. She didn't want drama. She just wanted to go home peacefully. She had even booked her ticket back to Canada for early February. That ticket symbolized hope, a chance to reclaim her freedom, her safety, and her future. But for Jack, her decision felt like betrayal. In his twisted mind, Ashley wasn't a girlfriend free to make her own choices. She was someone he controlled, and if he couldn't have her, no one would. This is the tragic pattern so many stories of intimate partner violence follow. A young woman, isolated and controlled, finally finds the courage to leave, but leaving is often the most dangerous moment. For Ashley, that danger was already closing in. February 1st, 2022, it should have been Ashley's fresh start. She had told friends she was ready to go home, that she'd booked her flight back to Canada, just a few more days, and she'd be back with her family, safe in the place she missed so dearly. But inside Jack Sepple's house on Tennyson Road, Chelmsford, something darker was unfolding. That morning, Ashley spoke with friends online, giving off a sense of relief, the kind of tone you have when you know an escape is near. But Sepple had already sensed what was happening. He knew she was leaving, and for him, that wasn't just rejection, it was a loss of control. According to investigators, Sepple snapped. In a fit of rage, he attacked Ashley inside the bedroom of his modest home. The details are chilling. Ashley, only 19, was stabbed repeatedly in what police later described as a brutal and sustained assault. What makes this crime even more horrifying is what Sepple did next. Instead of hiding what he had done, he opened Facebook and live-streamed immediately after the killing. In that video, which later spread across social media, he showed Ashley's lifeless body on the bed and admitted what he had done. Calmly, almost casually, he told viewers he had lost control. Neighbors soon heard the commotion and called the police, but by the time officers forced their way into the property, it was too late. Ashley was gone. At just 19 years old, her life had been stolen in the very place she thought she'd found love. For the officers on the scene, it was haunting. This wasn't a random act of violence on the street. It wasn't a case of mistaken identity. It was a young woman killed by the person she trusted most, the man she had moved across an ocean to be with. The contrast is almost unbearable. Days before, Ashley had been planning her return home, filled with hope for the future. Instead, she became the victim of one of Essex's most shocking murders in recent years. And as news of her death began to spread, the world would soon learn the devastating story of Ashley Wadsworth and Jack Sepple. When police entered Jack Sepple's Chelmsford home that February afternoon, they walked into a crime scene that was as shocking as it was disturbing. Ashley's body lay in the bedroom, and Sepple was sitting there calmly, as if nothing had happened. Officers immediately arrested him on suspicion of murder. It wasn't the kind of arrest that involved a chase or resistance. Sepple didn't fight back. He didn't run. In fact, he reportedly showed little emotion at all. But the evidence around him, and the evidence investigators would uncover in the following hours, painted a chilling picture. In the house, officers found blood, the murder weapon, and Ashley's belongings. But perhaps the most damning piece of evidence came from Sepple himself, the Facebook livestream he had started minutes after the killing. That video, already shared and reported by horrified viewers, left no doubt about what had taken place inside the house. As investigators dug deeper, they pieced together the timeline leading up to Ashley's death. Friends confirmed she had confided in them about booking a flight home. Phone records and messages showed her growing fear, her determination to leave, and her hope to start fresh in Canada. For detectives, it was clear this wasn't just a crime of passion. It was a young woman trying to escape a controlling relationship, silenced in the most violent way possible. The brutality of the attack shocked even seasoned officers. They described it as a ferocious and sustained assault, an act of rage that left no chance of survival. And in the aftermath, the Facebook livestream became a key piece of evidence, showing not only the crime itself but also Sepple's chilling lack of remorse. Within hours, the case against Jack Sepple was airtight, but the full weight of his actions and the devastating loss of Ashley Wadsworth was only beginning to sink in. When the case of Jack Sepple finally reached Chelmsford Crown Court, later in 2022, the courtroom was packed. Journalists, grieving family members, and members of the public all came to witness what had become one of Essex's most shocking murder trials. For many, the central question was painfully simple. How could a 19-year-old Canadian girl, full of dreams and optimism, end up dead just 3 years after graduating from high school, months after arriving in the UK? The prosecution wasted no time laying out their case. They presented the chilling Facebook livestream, the video in which Sepple himself admitted to killing Ashley, showing her body and calmly telling viewers he had lost control. It was the kind of evidence few juries ever see, and it left no room for doubt. Alongside the video, prosecutors detailed Ashley's final weeks. Her messages to friends revealed her growing fears. Her booked flight back to Canada showed she had decided to leave, and the brutal violence of the attack, multiple stab wounds, inflicted in what police described as a sustained assault, underscored the rage behind the crime. Sepple's defense team had little room to maneuver. In September 2022, he pleaded guilty to murder. There would be no drawn-out trial, no lengthy cross-examinations. Instead, the focus turned to sentencing. Ashley's family flew in from Canada to sit in the courtroom. For them, the proceedings were devastating. In emotional victim statements, her mother and sister spoke about Ashley's bright future, her adventurous spirit, and the deep hole her loss had left in their lives. Her sister described how Ashley had dreamed of studying law, of traveling the world, of one day starting a family, dreams that would never be realized. The judge condemned Sepple's actions as cold and calculated, describing the murder as sustained and brutal. He sentenced him to life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 23 years and 6 months before he could even be considered for release. It was justice on paper, but for Ashley's family, nothing could erase the pain. The life of their daughter and sister had been cut short by a man she trusted, a man she believed was her future. The conviction of Jack Sepple sent shockwaves through both the UK and Canada. For people in Chelmsford, it was almost impossible to reconcile. The quiet bus ride to work, the ordinary street on Tennyson Road, and behind one of those doors, a crime so horrific it made headlines across the world. For Ashley's hometown of Vernon, British Columbia, the pain was even deeper. They had sent their bright, adventurous 19-year-old off to chase her dreams, only for her life to be stolen just weeks later. In Canada, candlelight vigils were held in Ashley's memory. Friends and family described her as someone with a heart full of love and a future full of promise. At one gathering, her sister said, "Ashley had so many plans, and she trusted too easily. We'll never stop missing her." Law enforcement in both countries framed the case as a warning. It wasn't just about the risks of online dating, though those dangers are real. It was about coercive control, isolation, and how quickly relationships can turn dangerous when red flags are ignored or unseen. Criminologists later studied Ashley's case in the context of intimate partner violence. They pointed out the same heartbreaking pattern seen so often. A young woman, full of hope, moving in with a partner who slowly strips away her independence until leaving becomes the most dangerous decision of all. On social media, Ashley's story resonated far beyond Essex or Vernon. It became a cautionary tale. Don't ignore the red flags. Trust your instincts. Tell someone if you feel unsafe. But at its core, this is not just another statistic or case study. This is the story of a teenager who crossed an ocean for love and never made it back. A girl who should be alive today, building a career, traveling, laughing with friends, not remembered only in news headlines. Ashley's story is tragic, but it carries a message that could save others. Love should never cost you your safety. And when the signs of control and manipulation begin to appear, the bravest choice you can make is to walk away before it's too late.